Hi, I'm Chris Tempel, head instructor of Flathead Kempo Karate, and today we're going to be taking a look at The Perfect Weapon, which was a movie released in 1991, and it was the first movie of its kind that introduced Kempo and the art of Kempo to American audiences on such a large scale. I personally, although I've been doing the martial arts since about 1991, I personally actually did not see this movie until about 5 years ago for the first time. And then I saw it and I fell in love with it, so much so that I had to go out and buy it on Blu ray. The movie stars Jeff Speakman, who's a student of Ed Parker's. And in fact, Mr. Parker even worked with Mr. Speakman on the choreography for the film, so that's really cool. And I believe the film is dedicated to him. It says it's dedicated to Mr. Ed Parker and the spirit of Kempo. So that's kind of a neat little touch. I'm going to be commenting on certain fight scenes and training scenes and just kind of giving you my take on them and relating it to my personal experiences. I received my black belt in April of 2004 from Damon Tong, who was a student of Skip Hancock, who was a student of Mr. Parker. So that's my Kempo lineage, I guess you could say. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, this first scene that we're going to be taking a look at is a kind of an opening montage of Jeff training and doing some forms, or what traditional martial arts would call kata. We call them forms in Kempo. And people often ask, well, what form is this? What kata is he doing? Well, it's a hard answer because it's based on long four, which is like the classic Kempo form. Like if you go to a tournament and there's a Kempo guy doing a form, chances are it's going to be long form four. But he's also mixed in some finger set, some strike set, kick set, stance set. Like he's kind of mixed a bunch of different things together in it. And that's what's really cool. There's even some Goju-Ryu, which is like the style of Miyagi-Do in Cobra Kai. There's a little bit of that in here as well. But let's just go and take a look at it. And of course, it's to the glorious 90s music, I Got the Power by Snap. Can't help but dance when I hear it. Up a little bit here. There we go. So yeah, this is the beginning of long form 4, or parts of it, I should say. And what's cool about this is you're really getting a feel. Let me turn this back down. You're really getting a feel for what Kempo looks like. A lot of circular movements, but also direct and powerful movements at the same time. And there's a lot of scientific principles at play. If you notice his posture and balance, there'll be certain techniques with marriage of gravity added into it as well. Now, Kempo forms are actually made up of our self-defense techniques. And our self-defense techniques are made up of basics being applied to an opponent. So in a traditional martial art like Shotokan or Goju-Ryu, your techniques are what we would call basics. Different punches, different blocks, different kicks. Those are what they call techniques. In Kempo, we call those basics. We string them together into an imaginary self-defense scenario called techniques, and then we take those techniques and we put them together into forms like this. You couldn't fully see what he's doing there, but it's a block, and it's a one-legged block. So he blocks this way and then this way, and it's from one of our sets. And then, of course, the traditional Kempo close actually should be this way. Left over right. And the reason for that is that martial arts used to be illegal, like back in the old days. And so when you're practicing, you tend to get calluses and scarring and really big knuckles. You can see my knuckles are huge. And so they would walk around covering their right hand, their main dominant punching hand, with the left. And that's just a tradition that's carried forward to today. And this big circle comes from the closing and opening of our form. So we would usually drop to meditating horse and hands together, left outside the right, up, out, and feet together. And basically there's a meaning behind it. It says, I come to you with only karate, empty hands. I conceal my weapons, for at this time I do not wish to use them. If I must, I pray for forgiveness for what I must do. and I hope the whole world will join me in my prayers. And so this is the whole world will join me in my prayers. That's what that motion is meant to be. All right, next we're going to take a look at the Kempo training and the training montage. In the film, the main character's name is actually Jeff. And as a child, he had anger issues. He was getting into fights all the time and that kind of stuff, had no sense of discipline, no sense of respect or anything. His dad wants to send him to a military school, but a family friend says, no, let me take him to a Kempo school where he will learn self-discipline and self-respect. And so what we're about to watch is this training montage, and I'm going to be commenting on it quite a bit throughout because it really takes me back to my early days in Kempo in my training as well. So let's take a look.
Jeff.
First thing I noticed right here is the Kempo crest. This is the IKKA Ed Parker crest. This was a patch that he had designed. It features a dragon, a tiger. The kanji, I believe, says Kempo Karate. The K for Kempo. And then I can't remember what the other details were on it. And then, of course, all the colors have meaning and things too and stuff. Like, there's really a lot to this. I personally never got to train under that patch. I never have owned one myself because my school, when I was coming up through the martial arts, was starting to break away from a lot of the tradition. My instructor was trying to bring in a lot more modern stuff to it, for better or for worse. I think it made me a better fighter in the long run, but at the same time, I really wanted to learn Kempo too because I liked the principles and the scientific principles, and that was the disconnect with my instructors. He didn't take the Kempo principles and apply them to the other stuff we were bringing in. Whereas with Kempo 5.0, they take the principles and they do apply it to the groundwork and stuff like that. So for our school and our students, we have our own crest, and it has meaning behind it too, the colors, the shape, everything. But most importantly, I believe in bringing in parkour as a formidable form of self-defense because it can get you away from a bad situation, therefore defending yourself. And so we teach Kempo and parkour to our students, and that's why my crest has both a martial artist and a traceur on it, because that's what I try to bring the martial arts, is this idea of combining the two together. The Kempo for the fight and parkour for the flight.
This is Master Law.
Other things y'all see right here too, he's got the universal patch. Okay, I've got that. Basically, it's a way of visualizing all the different angles and planes that your body can physically move. And it's not just in a two-dimensional surface. It can be applied in 3D in so many different ways. In fact, the rumor is that Ed Parker, who designed the universal pattern, up until the day he died, still hadn't fully comprehended all the possible outcomes, because you can start overlaying it in 3D space, and then it really just totally unlocks what the potential of the human body is. Bowing for respect.
Pass it down.
So this is called Pass It Down. This is something we would do at the end of class. We start with your most advanced student, and you work down to the most beginner student. And the idea is that the harder you hit the person next to you, the more respect you have for them. In Kempo, we would rather be hit hard in class and be conditioned to that, so that way when we get hit on the street, it's not going to phase us quite as much, and this was a part of a way of doing that. You get a really good look at the Kempo crest right here. So you get the dragon, the tiger, the bullseye, kanji, and the Kempo karate.
Jennifer?
So we're getting into self-defense techniques now. Like I mentioned earlier, it's literally taking our basics and putting them into an imaginary fight scenario. I'll play this one shot here real quick. The guy's getting hit probably about 6 or 7 times. A lot of people complain that nobody's going to stand there in a real fight and let you hit them that many times. And you're right. That's not the purpose of these techniques. The purpose of these techniques is to learn how to put the vocabulary of motion together, to learn how to flow from one move to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And so that when you find yourself in a situation, you have your initial reaction. So if someone's throwing a right step through punch at me, my initial reaction is to get off the line of attack and parry off to the side. That would be step one. But from here, there's 1,000 different things I could do. I could smack the guy in the ribs, come back, step on his leg, pop him in the kidney, smash him in the head, snap the neck, down to the ground he goes. That's part of leaping crane to backbreaker. You could also just slip the punch and come into a headlock from there, okay? That's another variation you can go. But by doing and practicing these techniques, we're learning different variations and different ways of moving from one technique to the next. And that's really the whole purpose of hitting the guy 100 times. It's not to be done in a fight, it's to train you how to react in that kind of a situation and how to move and flow freely if you were in a fight. My brother and I used to do this too. We'd practice in our room,
Fighting techniques.
just like that. I'm gonna pause right here. So my background was I started in Kempo when I was like 5 or 6 years old. In fact, here's a photo of that right here. And my dad was in the military, and so we used to have to move around quite a bit when I was a kid. And every time we moved, I had to start over as a brand new white belt in a different style of martial arts because I could never find the same style from where we were before. So I trained in Kempo, Tracy Kempo, and then Soryo, American Karate, and then finally back to American Kempo and Parker style. And so I have a huge collection of belts, and I've got like 4 or 5 different white belts. And here's a photo of my belt collection here. The row on the bottom is my Kempo collection, but up top you'll see American, and then a little bit of my Tracy Kempo collection as well. So, but yeah, my brother and I used to fight, or not fight, well actually yeah, we would fight too, but we used to train in our bedrooms just like this.
Scientific principles. An unending flow of motion. A force which can overwhelm any attacker.
Turn that up.
Every move creates a specific reaction in your opponent.
So that star block that he's doing, up, in, out, down, back, push down. And if you click over to the rest of the videos on my channel, you'll see I actually teach you how to perform star block step by step. Up, in, out, down, back, push down. So yeah, if you want to learn how to do star block, check out the other video on my channel. I'll teach you how to do the form or the set that he's doing right here.
Reaction leads you to your next move. Every strike is a block. Every block is...
This is cool because it's actually putting star block into practice. So they're doing star block, but they're actually doing it against strikes. So again, you're getting used to hitting the opponent and how to turn a block into a strike. If someone's throwing a punch at me and my hand's up here, starting point for hammering, I can block, but I can, bam, turn that block into a strike at the same time. I'm popping them on the radial nerve right here on their forearm. So I'm causing damage while also defending myself. And that's a big part of Kempo, is to turn your blocks into strikes and vice versa.
Each move flows into the next. This logical and sequential flow of action is the essence of Kempo.
Now, I've seen other reviews of this movie. In particular, there's a karate instructor from Japan who's a black belt in Shotokan. I can't remember his name. I'm sorry if you're watching this. I don't remember your name offhand. But he had a question about the belts. Because in Kempo, if you're not the instructor, if you're just a student, if you're a male, you wear your belt not on the left. And if you're female, you wear it on the right. And the rumor behind how that tradition started is that Mr. Parker, back in the 70s, had a hard time telling the difference in class between men and women when you're walking behind them, because they all had long hair at the time. And so he instituted this idea of putting the knots on one side or the other. So they did miss one belt color there. They did miss orange belt. It goes white, yellow, orange, purple, blue, green, brown, black. So now he's a brown belt.
Kempo can be the most lethal of the martial arts. To control the power of Kempo, you must first control yourself. Train your spirit as you train your body, developing inner strength.
So here we have the belt promotion ceremony. And there's a couple things to talk about here. One is that traditionally in Kempo schools, you wear a white uniform until you reach brown or black belt, at which point you're presented with the black uniform. So in this case, he wore it all the way through brown. Now he gets his black belt. He gets his black gi. In our school, we didn't do that. You were a white uniform for white and yellow belt. And then we had something called the Black Belt Club that you could join. And that's where you have to wear black pants and a blue top. Instructors wore red, which is why I've carried on that tradition. I like the idea of having the instructor in a red uniform. It allows you to stand out, allows everyone to see you in class to help keep the focus on you. And then the other thing here with this is the belt is, his two belts, I should say, are making this L shape. So he's got his brown belt making the crossbar here on the left side, and then he's got his new black belt creating the bottom piece down here. And that L stands for a couple different things. It stands for love, love of self, love of others, love of the martial arts. It stands for life, to have a long life. Longevity, right? To live long through the martial arts. It can also represent a lie. If you didn't really earn that belt, you've got this big L staring you up in the face calling you a liar or a loser. You know, so there's a lot of meaning behind it. Another meaning with the L, so you've got this brace. This represents your past, this is your present, and then the future's open. We don't know what the future holds. So that's another symbolism for it. Now in just a moment, he's going to bend down and touch his forehead to his new belt. That symbolizes transferring the knowledge of your entire training thus far into the new belt. So it's kind of symbolic. But it also plays into the old myth of where black belt came from. The legend is that everyone just had white belts, and after years of training, all the blood, sweat, and tears would turn their belt black. They'd say that guy's been training for so long, he's become a black belt. It's a myth that's not really true, but that's the urban legend that people hear about. And so bowing down and touching your forehead to your new belt symbolizes putting that first bead, that first drop of sweat onto your new belt, continuing your training progression.
Balance.
So there he goes.
Harmony as you learn. The master of Kempo is more than an expert in karate.
Now, this ring is not something that's part of black belt ceremonies. I've never seen this outside of the movie ever. They do go in talking about the dragon and the tiger quite a bit. That is a smaller aspect of Kempo. It is a true thing, though, having the dragon and the tiger being two different states of the martial artist. But this idea of a ring symbolizing it is totally made up for the movie.
He is a martial artist. He is the master of himself.
All right, in this next thing we're going to check out, the character Jeff, now a black belt, is going to defend his kid brother against some football players. And there's a few things I want to point out as we go through with it, but yeah, let's just go and take a watch. So he got pushed down, got a bloody nose. Jeff's got a little attitude still. Comes in with the roundhouse. Thrust kick to the groin. Another roundhouse. And a jump spinning reverse crescent kick. So, a lot of kicks in there, which Kempo, we're not known for our kicks. That's more of a Taekwondo thing. But it works in this case. It's flashy. But most importantly, watch what he's about to do. Jeff right here on the left. Watch this. He crosses out and backs out of the frame, and that's something we do at the end of all of our techniques. We want to go ahead and step over, cross through, step out, and that allows us to kind of get a good glimpse of what's going on. We get away from the guy we just dropped, and we're looking for his buddies, ready for the next fight. So it was kind of cool to see that added into that scene. All right, in this next scene, which will probably be the last one I take a look at here today, this is the most well-known fight from the movie. In the film, he's trying to get information about who killed his friend, and he ends up being led to a Taekwondo gym. Now today, Taekwondo is mostly sport fighting. It does have some practical applications, as we'll see here in the fight, but traditionally, in modern, well, I shouldn't say traditionally, but now conventionally in modern times, Taekwondo is more about tournament fighting, that kind of thing, and you're going to see a lot of kicks in Taekwondo. Way more than you would find in American Kempo. So this is a really cool fight scene, super cool, and I'll just kind of give some commentary through it as we go.
Come on, white boy. Let's see what you got.
Kidney shot. They shot this whole fight over like 3 days, I think, too. They didn't have a whole lot of time to do it. They really had to rush. One of the things, too, I've heard about this is because in Kempo, when we train our techniques, we do lightly tag the other person and hit them. We're used to controlling it to that close of a degree that in these fights, they did make a lot of contact. It's light contact, but they did make contact rather than pulling punches, from 12 inches away and filming it over the shoulder and that kind of a thing. Occasionally, they do have to do that, of course, depending on what the move is. But there's a lot of stuff where you're actually watching the moves connect because that's how he trained, and so they're able to choreograph that into it. There's an example of an unending flow of techniques and basics on a guy, just wailing into him, laying into him. And down he goes. One of the other really interesting things about Kempo is that it's a dirty, nasty art. We don't play fair when we're in a fight because you're in a fight in the first place. If it was going to be a fair fight, you wouldn't even be there, or you'd be out in a ring somewhere. But in a real life, situation like this, yeah, you're going to break fingers, possibly break arms, kick to the groin, all the stuff that a sport fighter would say, yo, you can't do that. That's against the rules. And it's like, excuse me, you're in the middle of a fight here. There are no rules in a real fight situation. And so I like seeing that here with the finger break, and there's a groin kick coming up. Check this out. Right there. So that's something I wouldn't fly in a tournament, but in a situation like this, go for it. So that's my look at the perfect weapon. There are a couple other fight scenes, of course. There's a street fight. There's a fight at a club where you actually see a real Kempo technique being used. The guy puts him in a headlock, and he comes in and pops him once in the kidney, once in the groin at the same time, sandwiching him together like this. So that's kind of fun to see. And of course, the fight scene at the end, because I don't want to spoil the movie, I'm not going to show and review that. But he gets into some stick fighting, a little bit of knife fighting as well. And just a whole lot of fun. So if you're into 90s action films and you want to learn more about the art of American Kempo Karate, highly recommend checking out The Perfect Weapon. Like I said, I'm Chris Tempel from Flathead Kempo Karate, and this has been my look at the video. If you have any comments, please leave them down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know if you've trained in Kempo or you train in a different style of martial arts. Let me know what your thoughts of The Perfect Weapon are. And don't forget to like and subscribe as well. It really helps the channel out and helps the channel to grow. So with that, I guess we will just see you next time. Bye.